מה קורה חברים? הבאתי לכם סרטון מטורף. טומי רובינזון טוען שכנופיות אסלאמיסטיות השתלטו על בתי הכלא והקהילות בבריטניה, והמשטרה לא עושה כלום. המשטרה עסוקה בלרדוף אותו. זה רעיון ששודר לפני שבועיים. תראו בעצמכם.
Now anyone can do this. Watch my Oxford Union presentation. In that leaflet I said whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted in Luton. Yeah? Gangs are using heroin as a chemical weapon against our youth for pedophilic gangs. This is what's now known as grooming. But this was 2004. I said that they're enticing and drugging our youth on drugs and then passing them around. I said the police know what's happening. We know every shop. I know the shops that are fronts for heroin in Luton. We know who the gang are. I named them in the leaflet. Probably a stupid idea at the time because it brought me so much trouble. But I named the gang in the leaflet. 3 years later, national newspapers then run a story on the gang. This is 3 years later, the Daily Mirror run a story naming the Gambino gang is the Pakistani, very original, you silly mugs, called himself after an Italian mob. But the Pakistani gang was called the Gambinos. They're a 100-strong gang in Luton that control drugs.
אשכרה הפקיסטנים הגיעו לשם ועשו כנופיות שם, ועכשיו הבריטים נדפקים.
Pimping young girls, prostitution, heroin, they control it all. Yeah, and I named them in 2004. 2007, national stories saying how the Gambino street gang are funding terrorism and that they're using heroin as a chemical jihad to destroy our communities. It's like, but I've watched this, and most people think. I remember when I started talking about this in 2009, which was when I became prominent through the English Defence League. I was just talking about things I've seen my whole life. Unfortunately, now the British public have caught up. They're realising, Jesus, man, like everything they were saying was true. So, and in that leaflet that I wrote, that was in the paper, I said, we're not blaming all Muslims for this. I'm not. Yeah. In my Oxford Union presentation, I went through 68 attacks against non-Muslims' homes in the Muslim community of Luton, in the Berry Park area. I showed the Howards, they were 88 years old. They were an old white couple who live in a boarded up home. They don't bother fixing the windows anymore, yeah? Because the windows just get smashed again. Then there was a West Indian couple, a West Indian lady, an old school, and I know her son, yeah? Another family, she's passed away now, last year. But I knew that family, her house was getting attacked. And the point I made in the Oxford presentation was, do you know who it was that helped them when their house was under attack? It was Muslims. Yeah, some Muslims in the community tried to help them. That doesn't change the fact that their houses were being bombarded by other sections of the Islamic community who wanted them out of there because they're not Muslim. There are problems, but you can't have the conversation. No one's allowed us to have these conversations. The sexual exploitation, the grooming, because I rose to prominence discussing that is the reason that I face such an onslaught, so many attacks, so much lawfare, so much demonisation, so much slandering. Literally, the media was used as a weapon by the state, and the reason the state used the media and used the judiciary as their weapons, which is the weapons of a totalitarian state, to destroy me, to defame me, to imprison me and to break me, was because most who have risen up through the prominence of the British state have got dirty hands in this issue. When you understand that for 30 years they allowed systematic rape and torture of a generation of our kids, well, who were the people that allowed it? Well, let's look at just Rotherham Police Force, yeah? Rotherham was the most prominent police force where the head police officer knew, 100%, it's proven, he knew girls being taken, they were being raped. They made a decision not to do anything for community tensions. They made that decision. That's all come out in the Rotherham scandal, in the Rotherham report. It's no longer what Tommy Robinson's saying. It's now government reports. Where is that police officer now? He's heading counter-terrorism. On the 13th of October, I faced terrorism charges with no judge again. I'm going back to prison on the 13th of October, probably, because I have no jury. There's no jury. I've never had a jury in any of my prosecutions. So when you look at all these people, and it may become obvious now to people, but you have to understand, when I set up the English Defence League, in the first 3 months, in the first 6 months, I had 3 dawn raids. Previous 10 years before that in my life, I had no interaction with the police. All of a sudden, I'm holding protests. I've got police coming in my house with machine guns. They put me on bail conditions. They froze my assets, froze my bank accounts, closed my companies, arrested my pregnant wife. She was 6 months pregnant. They come in and nick my wife. They sat her down for 6 hours, 3 times in interviews. All of this was shut it down. That's what this was. And now it becomes evident. I actually put in a complaint. So when they arrested me, just this going back, because people need to, when we're doing the inquiries now, the rape gang inquiry, well, you need to inquire what the police done. You need to inquire what they've done to people, not just me, many whistleblowers like me. Sammy Woodhouse, what did she face? What did all of these brave people who decided to stand up and talk, what did they face? What persecution did they face and targeting they face? So that first time at Luton Airport, I travelled to Luton Airport. I got to Luton Airport. I was going to Scotland. We'd had the English Defence League running for 6 months. We'd had a protest planned in Yorkshire about the grooming scandal. I get to Luton Airport. I'm arrested by Special Branch. And I'm like, Special Branch? You're under arrest. They take me down to the police station. We're now raiding properties linked to you. I said, what are you raiding properties linked to me for? They arrested me for criminal damage. You see that door?
Yeah.
You see that little silver thing?
Yep.
Yeah, that was damaged in a hotel room that they said I stayed in. I'm not joking. I've got all the black and white evidence of this. Yeah, that was damaged. £30 criminal damage. They went into my mum's house and my children's house with machine guns. Yeah, they went into the family's house. They swatted both houses at the same time whilst I'm sat in the police station. I'm thinking for a £30 criminal damage. Then they get me into interview about this criminal damage. When it comes to bailing me after 10 hours, when they went into the house, when I got out. My wife said, one police officer spent 8 hours at our files, our paper files. We had files for properties because at that time I had 2 successful companies and 7 properties. Yeah, they one police officer, because their warrant didn't allow them to take paperwork. It only allowed them to take electrical devices because what they said they were looking for was proof that I booked the hotel room. Yeah, so they could take the computers, take the phones. It was all intelligence based. They were trying to shut us down. Yeah, and when they bailed me. Not allowed to send an email, not allowed to be in a group of 2 or more English Defence League supporters. My bail date was the exact time and exact date that I was due to hold a rally against grooming. Yeah. So I then, when I got out, I put in a complaint through the IPCC, the Independent Police Complaints Commission, saying, I made 6 allegations. I believe this has been politically motivated. You've done this to stop my activism on the street as a protest group. You've done this to stop me talking at a demonstration. You've done this. I made all these allegations. They just admitted them all. In the complaint that went through a year later, I've got all the black and white. They said, yes, we accept that. We accept that. We accept that. We're sending our police officers on training courses. It's like, but this is now part of the biggest scandal this country's seen, because what this was the police being used, and you can see why. And do you know where the police officers come and arrested me from? Bearing in mind I'm at Luton Airport, 30 police officers that raided my house come from Yorkshire. They come from the exact area that was the biggest cover-up of this scandal at the time. So that, when I look through now, and I get pretty upset about it, because I think you arrested my pregnant wife, and when the police come in and they're arrested him, then, and 6 weeks after they'd come in for this offence, yeah, boom, they come back through the door. And I'm in the house. We had to move. My wife, I had so many murders at this time. They come back through. Where they'd gone, when one officer had wrote down all the files, they come in on tax. Oh, yeah. They come in and done us on tax. They arrested me, arrested the wife. I got not guilty.
Do you think there's an extent to which that if you sounded like Douglas Murray, if you spoke like Douglas Murray, that they might not have targeted you so much?
Anyone who sounded like Douglas Murray just didn't open their mouths about this, unfortunately.
Well, Douglas did.
No, Douglas did once he
knew about it.
Once he knew about it, Douglas did. I think Douglas probably the best voices in the country on these issues, or the bravest.
Have you met him?
No. No.
But
אני בטוח שהוא יפגוש אותו, אבל הבחור הזה, תומי רובינסון, הוא כל הכבוד לו, הוא כל כך חזק, מנסים לשבור אותו, זה מטורף, והוא מחזיק מעמד.
I think a lot of people say about you is like it's sort of a classist thing. Some people think
it's a classist thing, and it was. I don't think it would have mattered for them. They were in full-on cover-up mode. So any whistleblowers, remember, we probably don't. You know my name. Everyone knows what I've gone through. Yeah, there's probably lots of people who tried to whistleblow, who were silenced with NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, financially scared, terrified, made to shut up.
Oh, Maggie Oliver.
There's probably so many Maggie Olivers that we don't know about. Yeah?
Yeah.
So many people who were within these councils, might have been in social services, who tried at some point to talk, and they would have just got beaten down, shut down, and kicked out of their jobs. Because the cover-up, that's what people need to understand, the scale of the cover-up. Where are these people now? How embedded in the Labour government was this? I've just landed in jail. I went out onto an exercise yard, which is a courtyard with all, and it's healthcare, so all the nurses are above. And as I went out for the first day and walked around, at every window were the nurses going, "We love you, Tommy. well done. And I knew straight out, and do you know where Axel Rudikabana was? He was in that cell there. Do you know what Axel Rudikabana was doing? He was a cleaner. He weren't on solitary confinement. He hasn't spent a day on solitary confinement. Yeah, he had a cleaner and a job on the wing. None of them. So Salman Abedi's brother. Again, I'll get to this. So I go in there. I get moved from Belmarsh anyway. I know Axel Rudikabana's there. In fact, they gave the Secretary of State passed a law, which I've got the paperwork for. Dan Wootton come in to see me in jail, and I told Dan Wootton, Axel Rudikabana was in a cell above. He's a cleaner on the wing in Belmarsh. He ain't on solitary, yeah? I know that because the staff told me, the nurses told me he's in that room there. They have to deal with him every day, walking around the unit, yeah? So I said all that. Then the next day that they brought in NDAs that anyone who come to see me had to sign an agreement. That was because of that got out of the jail.
Oh, did Dan report that?
Dan Wootton reported it. The next day they come in and give me a Secretary of State letter from the Secretary of State. Who's that? Is that Yvette Cooper?
Don't know.
From the Secretary of State, that nothing, if I spoke the word of Southport, the word of Axel Rudikabana, my phone would be cut off. Any visits. So my visits, everything was monitored every second of what I said. From the minute I got in there, my phone was on live monitor calling. So everyone else's phones were from 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. Mine was on for half hour and then half hour again. And when it's on for half hour, they're sitting listening. It's like, I'm not a terrorist.
What about, did you get a priest visiting you?
Yeah, I had a priest. I won't say his name. I don't want to put him in the position, but he was brilliant. He was brilliant. And the church, I'd say he was doing a great job, because sometimes the priests are so out of touch. He wasn't out of touch. He's an Asian lad. He was a brilliant lad.
Wow.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
What about, because there's imams that come to the prison as well.
So an imam come the first week I was in there, and he said, Tommy, he opened up the thing, he said, Tommy, Imran sends his love. I said, Imran? And then he said, yeah. I said, is he in here? So one of my mates from school, he got 24 years. And I was talking to him before this, when he was in another prison. So I was speaking to him just 3 years ago. He's then in Wood Hill. And I was like, Imran's here. And he goes, yeah, he sends you love. He said he loves you. I said, fucking hell. And then I put in an application, and so did Imran. So we both put in applications to see each other, but the prison wouldn't allow it. So when I had my next meeting, I said, right, there's someone I can socialise with. Can you bring him here? So I've got someone I can speak to. He's my friend. They said, who's your friend? I said, give his name. They're looking like that, thinking, what? I said, we're very good friends as kids. Yeah. I said, but he had a good job in there as well. But they wouldn't allow it. But back to, just so I can clear, so people understand what's going on with the prison within the prison.
Yeah.
The separation centre. So I'm taken there and I'm put in a room, probably just like this, yeah? And it's got an exercise bike and a running machine, which was great for me, yeah? It was great because I would non-stop beast myself for an hour and a half. Yeah. Then they'd take me out of there and lock me in a shower.
Your arms are massive.
Then they'd put me back in. Oh, I didn't have weights. I wish I had weights.
But
yeah?
you look built.
That's just my shirt and kebabs. But they put me, so I'd spend those couple of hours on that unit on my own, and then I'd get put back in my cell by 11:30, and then I'd get opened up the next morning. But when this is going on, I spent 5 months doing this routine, and routine's everything for me. I need routine. I spent 5 months doing exactly the same things, exactly the same time, reading at the same time, trying to keep myself sane. And then Salman Abedi's brother does a terrorist attack up in Franklin Prison, yeah? And then I find out, because many of the staff are on deployment, so 40 staff from Northern jails are in Wood Hill because they can't staff it, yeah? So they've got them all up there, and it was their friends that were dealing with Salman Abedi. At that time, when that attack happened, there's 7 Muslims in these separation centres, yeah? Again, none of them are on solitary confinement. They've got a pool table, they've got a pool table, they've got table tennis, they've got table football, and they've got a kitchen, right? No other prisoners have this. The jihadist unit has a kitchen with a full-on cooker, a chest fridge freezer, a toaster, a sandwich maker, an air fryer. Yeah? And so as I'm having my meetings, when I'm taken to this unit, I'm saying, please, can I just cook my own food? Why can't I use that kitchen? If you're taking me there every morning, no, you're not allowed to use the kitchen. Yeah? Why not?
So how were you eating these tins of tuna?
Just open them up, cold.
So just everything was cold for a year?
Yeah.
Just out of a tin, just that?
Out of a tin. But then, so Salman Abedi's brother, one of the ones included with him was Anjem Chowdhury, yeah? So the 7, which has never come out in the media, and they believe it was Anjem Chowdhury who ordered it, because the staff told me, because they took 7 of them. So the next day, I've got this gym every day, yeah? Which is keeping me sane. Salman Abedi did not do an attack. The next day, they transfer all those 7 straight from Franklin, because the staff won't deal with them. Do you know they were chasing, when he was stabbing the woman, he's chasing her around a pool table. And the other Muslims, the other 7 there, they took the staff, so they isolated the staff. Can you let me in this room? Can you do this? And as they're doing that, he's then gone for them. So they're limited in numbers. It's all planned. Yeah?
It's horrible.
It's all planned. That's not the first time he's done it. Salman Abdi's brother, he's already done it. And do you know what he done? He collected his butter. This is the insanity of this prison system, yeah? He collected his butter, because you get about 4 or 5 butters a day given to you. And he, in his little kitchen, that only the jihadists have got, he cooked up all the butter, and that's what he's thrown on her. That's what he's thrown on them, acid, to burn them, yeah?
Jesus.
He's thrown this. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I can't cook. I don't have cooking facilities.
Yeah.
Most prisoners, ordinary prisoners, have, on a wing, there's a little kitchen area, like a little thing like that, where they share a little fridge and they share. Yeah. They don't have what these jihadists have got. So the best facilities are given for the worst people. And then they give them it all. The next day, the prison come see me and said, yeah, you got no gym anymore. I'm like, what?
זה מטורף, הג'יהאדיסטים בבית כלא המוסלמים מקבלים שמה תנאים מטורפים. הכל שמה כבר מכור. זה פשוט מטורף.
Well, they've just brought all the jihadists to the separation center. You can't use the separation center. I said, so what am I going to do about exercise? So then I lost everything again. I've lost everything because the jihadists have got it all. And then, because when I went to court, they said I had a job. Yeah, that they just lied. They said I work on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, painting and decorating. It's like, I haven't done any painting and decorating. What are you talking about? I'm sat in my cell all day. I'm sat in my fucking cell all day.
That's insane, mate.
But then once they said that in court, they had to give me a job.
Yeah.
So for the last 2 months, because my solicitor then started hammering it. So for the last 2 months, on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday, they took me out of my cell and they brought me to a little empty unit and just put me in there. It's like, well, what the fuck?
What, to paint something?
Well, to clean the floor. And there's another 8 cells that are empty. So I had 16 cells here. Originally I had 16 cells here. It's like I had 40 cells in a prison that's full. You're letting all the criminals out because you're saying it's full. I'm a civil prisoner. But I probably sound like I'm just moaning and bitching because the injustice of seeing what the terrorists and jihadists have got and how easy of a ride. They're all just out playing pool all day together, cooking food, having a great time, stabbing prisoners.
This is the issue. I mean, 20 years ago, you were...
ממש קייטנה הם מקבלים שם, זה פשוט מטורף.
You were warning people that the influx of Islamic immigration was a huge problem in this country. Nobody believed you.
James O'Brien hammered me, and I rang up his radio show 20 years ago and said, they're taking over the prisons. I'd just come out of jail in 2010. And I rang him up and said, you do not understand, they're ISIS training camps. These prisons are jihadist training camps. Everyone's converting. Nothing's being done. He just shouted me down. Yeah, he shouted me down. I don't think anyone understands the scale. You know, like, if you see in America when they see the military, they clap them and applaud them. If you see a prison officer, trust me, you should be clapping and applauding them. Yeah. And what the prison officers explained to me is they control the wing. So if we mess with the Muslim brothers as staff, if we put anything, they just put a hit on us. We're getting stabbed. Yeah. So then the prison staff, and I don't blame them for it. They're just normal bods. Yeah. It's like someone's mum. Some of them, they're just ordinary mums and dads, and they're going to work. And they're dealing with the toughest, most hardened jihadist men and mindset who will happily stab them and happily stick acid in their face, happily burn them. So they're in this weak position where their hands are tied behind their back by the prison system due to allegations of racism, allegations of Islamophobia, and they can't do their job. But I sat and watched all of this and just thought, what the fuck? We're fucked. The prison system's being used. Every institution in our country is being used against our country.
זה פשוט מטורף, זה פשוט קייטנה של איסלאמיסטים. כל מי שמגיע לשם מקבל תנאים ומתאסלם. תשתפו את הסרטון ונתראה בסרטונים הבאים.